Hi, I'm Mark Anthony, and in this video, I'm going to talk to you about how to work on your children. This is one of the most common questions that I get asked for people that come for classes or even for healings and people that are asking about healing in general, spirituality. One of the most common things is people just get stuck when it comes to working with their children. And one really important thing to understand is that your children being so open to spirituality, because that's how we come in. When we come into our natural state when we're born, what happens is we're still closer to the creator energy than we are to this physical plane. And so children are very open. So from a science perspective, the first 2 years of life, children are in a delta brainwave, which is the deep sleep state. The next 4 years of life, they're actually in a theta brainwave, which is the state that you go into under hypnosis. And so basically the first 6 years of their lives are in a semi-conscious state. So children are very open and susceptible to our thoughts and fears. And so the first thing I always do when it comes to working on a child, so if I'm working on my own child and my child has an issue, say it's a physical issue, then the first thing I do is work on me. How does it make me feel that my child has that issue? And I deal with those emotions first. I deal with what comes up for me first. And so what I do is I'll go into it. How does it make me feel? And let's say it makes me feel frustrated, or let's say it makes me feel angry. What I do is I close my eyes and I go into where I feel that in my body. And then once I recognize where I feel it, so let's say I feel it in my heart, I put my hand on my heart and I close my eyes and I just think back through my life. When's the first time I remember having that feeling? And that'll take me to a memory. And that is my starting point. So that is what I dig on. So I dig on that memory and I go through and clear myself in relation to it. And then when I'm able to think about what's happening for my child, as if I'm emotionally detached, then I'm in the best position to be able to help that child. And that's really important, because as long as you're emotionally attached to it, that's one of the things that stops you from being able to help them. And the key is to help them. And so if you're feeling connected to that issue, if you're holding on to that issue, or if you're getting frustrated by it, or disappointed that it's actually happening, then you're holding that condition in place. And so it's really important that you deal with your issues first, and then you work on the child. So let's say it's somebody else's child. So a client comes to me and they've got their child that they want to work on. And so the first thing I will do, if that child is physically there, then the first thing I will do is I will disconnect the child from the parents' fears, their thoughts, their beliefs, etc. So the first thing you're doing is disconnecting their energy from their parents' energy, because obviously there's a connection there. And so when you disconnect that child from the parents' feelings, then you're going to find it's going to be a lot easier to work on that child. Now, if it is a very young child, then the digging work's not really going to go too far, because you dig on a child and how does that make you feel? Oh, it makes me feel sad. Okay, what's the worst thing about feeling sad for you? Oh, I feel very, very sad. So you're not going to get real deep with the digging, and that is only because they don't have all the years of baggage that we do. So it's important to understand, if you're actually physically digging on a child, the digging is not going to go real deep. And that's okay. It's not a problem. So I don't think you're doing it wrong. Don't think that you've missed something. It's not that way at all. The thing is with children, they don't have the years of baggage. So the digging isn't going to be really deep. You're not going to be going back to 30 years ago when they were 5 years old. The thing is they're probably 5 years old now, and so they may go back a couple of years in memories, but they don't have that many. They don't have that much baggage. So if you're digging on the child, then you don't have to go back too far. But always work with the parent as well. Even if the child is there, if it's a young child, then you can dig on the parent in front of the child. Usually that's okay. Or sometimes the child may go out of the room, and if you've got a space that's safe where they can actually be there without actually being in the room when you're doing a consult, you can always leave the door open, and that's what I would always do. But I always have some toys around that if there are children that come, they've got something that can entertain them if they have to be entertained. And so what I will do is let them sit in the common area, which nobody else has access to. It's only us that are here. And so I'll lock the door so the child's not going to go outside. So they'll be able to sit there, they'll be able to entertain themselves, and that's when I start digging on the parent. How does it make you feel about your child having that issue? You know, when did that issue start? What was happening in your life when that child started having that issue? And that's what you really want to be working on. What was happening with your relationship? What was happening for your partner? Allow yourself to go into what was happening for the parent at the time when the issue started for the child. And when you do that, you're going to clear some really amazing stuff. And if we are creating everything, so if that child is a manifestation from the parent, that child having that condition or emotional issue, whatever it may be, if we are at cause for everything that happens in our lives, then when we release ourselves from the cause, when we release ourselves from the emotional attachment, then you allow that child to heal. And if they don't heal, then it means that it's the child's issues. And that's when you focus more on working on the child. So allow yourself to know that working on the parents is one of the key things to do when it comes to working on children. And so I always work on myself first. If my child has an issue, if my child has an emotional issue, I will go into it. Okay, so when was the first time I experienced that? So let's say they got hurt by another child. When was the first time I was hurt by another child? And so I'll go back into that and I'll dig on my issues around it and probably release my feelings of being victimized or whatever it may be. And as if my child has taken those feelings on from me, then those feelings are going to disappear from the child, because the belief work works in bloodlines. So it'll change your children, it'll change your parents. And that's why it's really important to work on the children. The other thing that you want to look at too is sometimes if a child has an illness, the parent takes on this role of it's their goal in life to heal their child. And so the focus may change from actually healing the child, and the focus becomes having to heal the child. So as long as you have to heal the child has to have an issue. And that's really important to understand, because if you have to heal them, then they have to have an issue. And so you're going to be feeding each other. So what you want to do is look to see if there's any oaths, vows, or contracts to heal each other. So to heal the child, or for the child to be healed by the parent. The other thing that's important there too is sometimes there are soul contracts. And a soul contract is really interesting because you'll feel that energy like a band just around under your chest. So around the bottom of your ribs, you'll feel that energy around there, and it usually goes all the way around. And that's a soul contract. So if you have a soul contract to heal the child, or the child may have a soul contract to be healed by you. So when you release a soul contract, it's important to release each other from the obligation. So you would release the parent from the obligation of having to heal the child, and you would release the child of the obligation of having to be healed by the parent. So they're really important things to understand. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, like it, share it with people that you think can benefit from it, because this is really powerful information and I know it'll help a lot of people. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll be notified of upcoming videos that we post. And in the next video, I'll actually give you downloads in relation to this. So thank you for your time.